Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88, Dean Radio, and Secret Weapon Consulting. I will be your host tonight, CJ Medeiros, and of course, I have a very special friend of mine, my good co-host, Justin Tucker. Hey, Justin, how are you doing on
I'm
this
doing,
Tuesday night?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Not too bad. Not too bad. The Celtics are on tonight.
Oh, yeah, they are, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I know it's a sports, football podcast, but I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that, well, the basketball season starting up again. Well, maybe you could put that on the back burner as you maybe watch some football first and foremost. That's a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we have a lot planned tonight. We're going to break a lot of stuff down, but first, there's something we need to have an earnest discussion about. The Green Bay Packers have lost their second straight game, and each to a New York team, as you know, the Giants and the Jets. So, Adam and I were talking about this. Does this put like a damper on like Rodgers' career, and what is even going on with the Packers? Justin, you want
First,
to unpack that?
first, a damper on his career? Absolutely not. I don't understand why that's actually a question. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. There's nothing you can do with that, even with back-to-back losses with the New York teams. Because first off, they're having pretty good seasons in their own right. Number one. Number two, it's Aaron Rodgers. He'll bounce back, and he doesn't have any weapons to throw to. Sammy Watkins is injured. Randall Cobb is injured. I want to say it's only Alan Lazard and Christian Watson, and they're not doing much for him. And the offense isn't conducive to help Aaron Rodgers at all. So it's either Aaron Rodgers or bust, and most of the time it's been bust. The fact that they've been able to win some of these games comes down to the acumen of Aaron Rodgers and the fact that the Bucks are just looking terrible right now. So as far as what it looks like for him, I don't think it's a damper on him. I just think the Packers are just going through a terrible slump right now, and they need to fix the offense.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I understand. But please hear me out, okay?
Oh boy, oh boy.
I mean, at this point in time, I'm not so sure about the Jets. But I mean, maybe, but I'm starting to think the Giants are legit. You can't call it paper wins anymore. You really can't, especially after, no offense, they just beat the Ravens. But,
Luck. That wasn't. Continue.
well, and all I'll say about that is that the Ravens have been up by double digits in all the last three games, and they've lost. But that's something we talk about for another day. So the Packers are interesting. I mean, as soon as we heard about the Devontae Adams trade, you knew this was going to be different. And during the draft, I believe, I don't know if I ever mentioned it on the show, but Tucker, you've heard me say numerous times, I am not a fan of Christian Watson in the draft. I liked Romeo Doubs better than him, but they have him too. Randall Cobb is old. Alan Lazard's a bum. I mean, but their running backs are decent, but they're not doing anything because they're now kind of a ground and pound type of offense, and defenses are just stacking the box. Now, as far as the career, I won't say anything yet, but mark my words, if the Packers miss the playoffs or are a wild card one and done team, and if they keep struggling like this, that slim goat case that Aaron Rodgers has is going to go out the window.
Oh,
And I hope it does, because it will shut up those Packers fans once and for all. What?
Stop. Are you going to say that with the way Tom Brady is playing right now? Are you going to say keep that same energy for him? Because he's playing like a scrub too. It's
Yeah, I'll admit he is not playing well. However, Brady was already on a higher pedestal than Rodgers. Brady already had better everything than Rodgers. Brady is already the GOAT, and this is just for those cheeseheads. They're like, oh, look at Rodgers' passer rating. He's the GOAT. It's like, will this finally smack some sense into you? Please let it.
Oh my! If you're saying Tom Brady's the GOAT because of all the championships he's won and all the games won and all that stuff, sure, I have no problem with that. Tom Brady's the GOAT. But if you're just basing this off this season, he doesn't have a strong case either. So if I look at Aaron Rodgers' season, yeah, he's not playing good by his standards. He's playing awful, just like Tom Brady is. But at the same time, I'm not holding this season against them. Green Bay has for years not given this man weapons. The only weapon he
For
has,
years. For
yes,
what?
years.
He has had Donald Driver. He has had Jordy Nelson. He has had prime Randall Cobb and Devontae Adams. And he's had running backs like prime Eddie Lacy, just for 2 years. We don't talk about that. And he's had A.J. Dillon. And furthermore, he's had tight ends like Jermichael Finley and Martellus Bennett and really good linemen like David Bakhtiari, Brian Bulaga, Corey Lindsley, Josh Sitton, and TJ Lang. I don't want to friggin' hear it.
I'm so happy you're bringing this up. Number one, he hasn't had Donald Driver in almost a decade. You need to let that go.
So what? He still had him. You said they're not giving him weapons, and yet there is a weapon.
I'm talking current times. When they had
Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams.
When they had the opportunity to draft Justin Jefferson because they needed a wide receiver to pair next to Devontae Adams, they passed on him to go somewhere else. They needed that wide receiver.
Justin Jefferson was already off the board, wasn't he?
They could have traded up. They were in range to get him. They could have traded up if they really wanted to, but they chose not to because they wanted to take a quarterback for the future. Look how well that panned out for them.
So you're saying all of this is because of that one move?
No, I'm saying for years, for some reason or not, they have refused to give Aaron Rodgers another wide receiver outside of
the I understand you. I do. But they literally just drafted 2 this year, and look at how well that's working out.
Never in the first round. They never take.
Okay, look. I will tell you. Look, I'll tell you. I've said that they don't want to help him, but like, don't you think that it's like, he's never had weapons, and that's why he's never got over the hump? Don't you think that actually hurts him, seeing that he's really only been as good as the weapons around him? Because apparently he's never had weapons, according to you.
He's good enough to take his team to the NFC Championship game. I don't think he's single-handedly good enough to take them over, if that's what you're asking. However, I don't think anybody's good enough to do that by themselves. That's the way I see Aaron Rodgers. He's always gotten to that big moment, and he can't get over that hump, even though he's a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
When he has competent weapons around him, yes, he can. But unfortunately,
he has competent weapons around him, and he has had that,
Yes,
and he has quite literally gone to 4 straight NFC Championship games, and he lost all 4. I'm sorry. You can only blame the defense and the supposed lack of weapons so much.
I can blame that defense all I want to if we watch both those NFC Championship games against the Bucks and the San Francisco 49ers if we want to. But I'm not doing that.
Wait, are you seriously blaming the defense? They lost to a team that didn't even score an offensive touchdown that year.
Which one?
Last year.
Yeah.
Like you can't blame the defense. They didn't give up a single offensive touchdown. How's it?
I'm talking about the 2 you were talking about specifically, the Bucks and the 49ers. That wasn't Aaron Rodgers' fault. That was that defense for not being able to stop the run. And when they needed a linebacker or a receiver to either stop the run or help out the offense, they do a punt and get a quarterback for the future. I don't care what you tell me. They have consistently not been helping this man. And I hate how it seems like I'm trying to come to Rodgers' defense because even at some points in times, I get upset with him with some of the things he says. But at the same time, it's like, all he wants is a first-round receiver, and y'all can't give it to him. The only time he's passed to a first-round talent is Mercedes Lewis. To put that in perspective, Mercedes Lewis was like in his 14th season when he got to Aaron Rodgers. That is disgusting behavior, if I do say so myself. So help the man out, give him some help, and let's be done with it and let's win a ring. Don't blame this on him.
Yeah. They tried, but it turns out Rodgers wanted a massive contract. And that drove away Devontae Adams. Furthermore, they tried to pay Adams, and Rodgers' own repulsive personality drove away Adams.
No, I refuse to blame that impulsive personality. Aaron Rodgers having an impulsive personality. Devontae Adams just wanted to play with his college quarterback. That's fine.
Oh, really? That's it. It had nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers being a fully blown diva.
No, because it's the quarterback position. Everybody knows the quarterback position is the diva position. I have no problem with my quarterback being a little bit of a diva. Aaron Rodgers is a little bit of a diva.
A little bit.
Yes, a little bit.
He's literally been playing the will I, won't I sit out for 2 straight years solely for media attention. That is
Oh,
far from a little bit, and even you have to admit it.
no. Did he play? Did he play?
Yes, he did, but that's not the point. The point is he literally did it for media attention.
He wants to leave. He wanted to leave Green Bay because they already got a franchise quarterback in his position. He wanted to leave. They said no. So he's like, if you're not going to let me leave, give me the contract and let's move on. They gave him the contract. That was that.
He left. He literally could have sat out and not played. But instead, he doesn't want to be there. So instead, he signs a longer term deal. He signs an extension. That doesn't make sense.
Look, I'm not going to continue arguing about Aaron Rodgers' past if we're going to talk about the present. Can we at least stick to the present here, CJ?
I don't know. Can we, Justin?
Because we're just not going to agree on Aaron Rodgers. We're just not.
That's fine. That's fine. I get it. I do. I hear you. I understand. But before we move on, because this has actually been this debate, very spirited. We both have our opinions. Good entertainment, I must say. But before we move on, what do you think the Packers are going to do this season? Well, you hinted that Rodgers might bounce back. Are you confident he will? Like I said, this is about Rodgers. This is about the Packers. What do you think? Where do you think they're going to end up here? Do they come back? Do they keep going the way they're going? Like, what's your take on that?
They have to make a trade for a quality weapon for Aaron Rodgers to use. Sammy Watkins is on.
Okay.
Randall Cobb just got injured. They almost have little to no weapons to support him. If they want to actually have like title aspirations or like at least contend, they need to make a trade to get a quality weapon. That's just the end of it. Or they need to somehow fix the offense to get the running game more involved with Aaron Jones and AJ. I don't know how they're going to do that, but again, I lean towards more so of getting another weapon for Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, do you think they will?
Probably not.
Yeah.
They're very conservative with that.
Yeah. I honestly don't see them getting another weapon for Rodgers. But Packers fans, he can do it himself, right? That's what I've heard after all these years. But apparently that's not true. Once again, I personally have nothing against Rodgers. It's his fans. The ones like, oh, he has a GOAT case. No, he doesn't. Especially not after this year, if things keep going the way they do. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, we're going to have to move on, but we are going to touch on the New York teams, not Buffalo. We know they're good. The Jets and the Giants are a combined 9-3. What kind of world are we living in? I couldn't tell you, but we're going to break that down, and you're not going to want to miss that. So don't go anywhere, because this is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm CJ Medeiros, and that over there is my good friend Justin Tucker. So this football season, it's been interesting. It's like living in the Twilight Zone, because the two teams, New York teams, wink, wink, that are really from East Rutherford, New Jersey, are a combined, sit down. Are you sitting? Good. 9-3. 9-3. The Giants are 5-1 and the Jets are 4-2. That's something. So, Justin, what do you make of this? Is this turnaround for real? Are they paper wins? Is it a fluke? Nobody knows. That's the fun. So can you just give me your take on that?
I don't know. I want to say they're deserving because it's hard to go 5-1, But at the same time, when you look at these games, some of these games, it feels like some teams are losing it. Cough, cough, Ravens. Then the Giants winning it. I will say this: the Jets, I think, is a turnaround because I expected them to be like 1-5, 2-4 around that area. They've turned it around quite a bit, and I will say at least Zach Wilson looks pretty good right now. Whatchamacallit, Bryce Hall is looking like a quality running back for them. Sauce Gardner is like that at the cornerback spot. CJ's been talking about him in the draft and for the New York Jets. He's looking like that guy. He looks like a Pro Bowler right now.
He really does.
If they keep this up, I could see them stealing a wild card spot and facing one of the division champions in the first round. I think they're that good. I think they can give any team a fight. But at the same time, I'm not sure where they stack up with everybody else, so we'll just have to wait and see. If they can continue this, I'd be impressed because I didn't see this in the Robert Saleh era yet. But congratulations to the Jets. The Giants, on the other hand, quality. They're contending with the NFC East. The East looks good, by the way, this year for some reason.
Except for the Commanders.
Yeah. Except for the Commanders. Everybody else is quality except for the Commanders. But outside of that, the Giants look good. Saquon Barkley has come back to resurgence. He looks like that number one back that he was in 2018. Jesus. Daniel Jones looks like something. I don't know what, but something. And that defense is quality. It looks pretty damn good, to say so the least. I mean, but of course they have a quality DC in Wink Martindale, so of course it's going to look somewhat good. And they have pieces all around to make the defense work. So congratulations to New York Giants and congratulations to New York Jets.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a Pats fan. Don't like the Jets or the Giants, but I'm not even mad at how good they're doing. I'm honestly impressed. I mean, I don't think anyone expected this. I really don't. But both of these teams are very similar. Not in the way that they're playing over their heads essentially, but they're just, I won't lie, the quarterbacks are average. I mean, Daniel Jones is like a 67% completion percentage, like 1,021 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's decent, across 6 games. Zach Wilson has played like 3 games, I believe. He's got a 56% completion percentage, 572 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. So, but I know what you're thinking. Why are they good? And Justin, you actually mentioned it. They're built with solid defense and running the ball first, a tried and true formula that has helped many teams. And when you look at guys like Breece Hall, who is getting some Rookie of the Year buzz, I hear, for offense, he's just been insane. And Saquon Barkley, just going, for lack of a better term, just going off, turning back the clock to his old self. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get success because, like I keep saying, we've seen this throughout the years that a strong running game and a good defense can take you far. I mean, look at Saquon Barkley. He has 616 yards, averaging 5.2 yards a carry and 4 touchdowns. And Breece Hall, you got to remember he's a rookie, and he is sharing that backfield with Michael Carter.
Mm-hmm.
He still has 391 yards. He's averaging 5.1 yards a carry and 3 touchdowns. That's pretty darn good for a rookie. Like I said, especially when you're basically 1A and 1B in that Jets backfield. So when you take all that and you really think critically about it, I got to say, I'm not entirely sure it's a fluke because I've said strong defense and a ground and pound offense is about as stable as you can get. Justin, your thoughts?
Yeah, of course. If you're a heavy run game, you need a defense to be able to support that. The main thing is to take time of possession, win the time of possession, and basically give the other offense little to no chance of scoring by running down the clock to give that team basically almost little to no time of scoring. And so when you do an offense like that, if you have a great running game, you can instill that mindset of running down the clock almost immediately, and it gives the other team little or no choices because once you're up to, like for an example, a 14-point lead, they have to start passing. And if your defense is stopping the pass and stopping the run, time will just inevitably start to tick away from them, and before they know it, the game is over and they can't come back to win the game. So if this Jets team and this Giants team can continue to do that, I don't see why they can't go further and make it to the playoffs. I think the Giants has a shot against the Eagles. I'm not fully convinced on the Eagles just yet, even though they are 6-0 and look like world beaters. And I'm not completely sold on the Jets just yet. I'm not sure who. I don't think they can get past the Chiefs or the Bills because I think that's who they would have to match up against if they do make the wild card spot. So it's going to be a tough battle for both of them. But at the same time, with the way that they're playing, I don't see why they can't win.
Yeah, I don't either, and I actually believe that that they could actually, especially the the Jets. I especially believe that they can go to a wild card, and the Giants too. The Giants, if they beat Philly, then they might be the team to beat in the NFC. And the Jets, they're in a tough division. The Patriots are putting things together. You have the Dolphins getting Tua back, and the Bills just beat KC. That division, I think, is going to go right down to the wire.
Yep.
Now, obviously, we could talk about that all day, but unfortunately, we do have to move on. And I just mentioned the Bills and Chiefs, and ironically, that's who we're going to talk about next. So, in the newest chapter of the Mahomes-Allen saga, Allen beat Mahomes 24-20. So what's going on there? Is Buffalo out of KC's shadow? Well, we don't quite know, but we're still going to try to break it down after this. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. I am CJ Medeiros with my good friend Justin Tucker. And so, well, that was something, wasn't it? Bills Chiefs, always a fun matchup. So the Bills beat the Chiefs 24-20, taking revenge over last year's heartbreaking playoff loss. And so many people are saying that Allen now is the upper hand in that rivalry. So are the Bills starting to come out of the Chiefs' shadow? Justin, I already hear you giving your take on that. So what do you think?
They have to show it in the playoffs. I mean, I wouldn't say the thing with the Chiefs is if you beat them in the regular season, you should have confidence because they're a very tough team to beat. But at the same time, no, I wouldn't give them confidence just yet to beat them in the playoffs. They still have to show it. They should have beat them last year, if we're being quite honest, but they choked it away on defense.
Thank you.
They blame it on a coin flip.
Ain't that the truth?
It shouldn't have gotten to that point in the first place, but again, that's neither here nor there. They just couldn't stop Travis Kelce in the clutch when they needed to. Or Tyreek Hill. But again, I digress. I think this should give them confidence to face them in the playoffs, but no, they do not have the edge against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a Super Bowl winning team. The Bills are a AFC title contending team. That's the difference. They still haven't won an AFC championship yet. The Chiefs have been contending in the AFC championship game since 2019. Let's calm it down a bit. Until they are able to beat the Chiefs, I won't put the Bills past them. But they are like the second best team in the AFC in my eye. Well, yeah, second best team in the AFC, despite the one against the Chiefs. I still think the Chiefs are the team to beat even after this. And I think once they face off in the playoffs, we might see a very different team. But I should feel confident if I'm the Bills because I just beat the Chiefs and I just took it to them in overtime and I stopped Patrick Mahomes when I needed to. So yeah, I wouldn't say they have the edge over them, but I could see them beating them in the playoffs now.
Yeah. I hear you. I really get it. And honestly, I'm not sure if I'm ready to say Allen has the upper hand. I mean, Mahomes, I believe, is 2-0 against Allen in the playoffs, like 4-2 against Allen all time. You know, Mahomes has like the ring. So, look, that was impressive for Buffalo. It really was. But I wouldn't say they're out of the Chiefs' shadow just yet. You know, it's, I mean, you know how I'm.
Yeah.
There's really not a lot to go on here. I mean, we have the numbers, we have the accolades. But let me tell you something. If they meet in, say, the AFC Championship or they meet again in the playoffs and the Bills win again, and maybe if they win a ring, I might have to consider it because pound for pound, the Bills are better. They just have a better roster, and there's no shame in admitting that. However, I can't really say that the Bills, you know, when it comes to the Mahomes-Allen rivalry, basically, which is like we covered last episode, is starting to become one of the good ones. I can't say that after one game, Allen has the upper hand and is out of Mahomes' shadow just yet. Justin, do you have anything else like to add to that?
Not even a little bit. They lost to him in the AFC Championship game. A year later, they lost to him in the divisional, and now just because they beat them in the regular season, you think, oh, now we have the edge? No, I'm sorry. Too many times, especially when it matters most, the Bills have come up short. And against the Chiefs, I'm sorry, nah, I don't think they have the edge right now. But they are starting to gain traction. I'd give them progress.
Yeah. And look, I'll tell you that, and I think you're correct. But like I said, Allen has never beaten Mahomes in the postseason. If he does this year, then we're going to reopen that case.
Yeah.
But until then, I still say Mahomes over Allen.
Yeah, the way I would look at it, I like how people compare it to like the modern day version of like Brady versus Peyton. Because in the earlier stages, Brady was always getting the better of Peyton. But as the years went on, Peyton would eventually get the better of Brady. I think that's what this rivalry could potentially be. It all depends on how good Josh Allen turns out to be and if he can get over that hump of the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs or in, the postseason.
Yeah. So before we, talk about that, I just want to say for those keeping score at home, Manning and Brady have played each other 17 times. That's insane, And it's basically an interesting split here as Tom Brady wins like the head-to-head series overall at 11-6. So, yeah, I definitely feel that Allen and Mahomes would definitely be a lot closer, shall we say. Yeah. So, it's always fun talking about the NFL, but we do have to move on. So, as you know, we're trying to get more into fantasy, and we have a new segment you may know as the Fumblerooski Fantasy Fix. We're going to try to help you with your lineups. So don't fret. We got you. Just listen to our advice, and we're going to cover that next. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski Podcast. Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm CJ Medeiros, along with, you may know him, my good friend Justin Tucker. Now, we have to break down our Fumblerooski fantasy our stardoms. Oh, wait, no, not our stardoms and situms, excuse me. This is your streamers, basically, some good waiver wire pickups or some bench players you might want to start. So here we go. Running back, that's an important position. We're going to say pick up, if you can, Kenyon Drake. Despite the fact the Ravens lost, Kenyon Drake had an amazing game because J.K. Dobbins is having some tightness in his knee, I believe. And I believe he's listed as questionable, and he might be on a snap count. So if that's the case, pick up Kenyon Drake because that guy has shown he can play. He's ready and willing right behind Dobbins. So definitely keep an eye on him. Next is Latavius Murray for the Saints. Alvin Kamara is battling injuries, and plain and simple, Latavius Murray's next up. So if you can, make sure you want to grab him. Wide receivers. Here's an interesting one. Robbie Anderson. Now, for those who don't know, Robbie Anderson was just traded from the Carolina Panthers to the Arizona Cardinals. But wait, you're saying, DeAndre Hopkins is coming back. Won't Robbie Anderson be wide receiver 3? To which I say, no, he isn't. Do you know how I know? Because Hollywood Brown just went down with what we believe to be a 6-week injury, bumping Robbie Anderson up to basically wide receiver 2. And he would be a great waiver wire addition, or if you have him on your bench, consider yourself lucky, because I think, from going from Mayfield to Kyler Murray, I can say that there's going to be an uptick in points. And another wide receiver, now, as a Pats fan, I can tell you, I try to avoid Patriots players like the plague because you never know who's going to show up when. But Devontae Parker has been balling out these past few weeks, and especially against the Lions and the whoever we just play. I don't know why I'm blanking. Oh, the Browns. Sorry, that's bad on my end. But Devontae Parker played the Lions, played the Browns, and now he's going up against the Bears defense. I would say start him, especially because he's just been playing out of his mind lately. Tight end. Speaking of Patriots, Hunter Henry. He just had a huge game last year, like 4 catches over 60 yards and a touchdown. You have him on your bench. Once again, consider yourself lucky. Start him up. And another tight end, Noah Fant on the Seahawks. I'm noticing that Geno Smith is starting to target him more, and every good quarterback needs a security blanket. So why not take a risk on Noah Fant in free agency? And let's just say your quarterback situation is not the best. You need some streamers. Well, why not consider Matt Ryan as a quarterback streamer? I mean, he's finally getting the molasses out of his you-know-what, and he's playing well, actually. And the Tennessee defense isn't doing that well, so that's a favorable matchup for Matt Ryan. Next, Tua Tagovailoa against Pittsburgh. Tua, we believe, is coming back after the Dolphins thoroughly destroyed his brain. But that's okay because fantasy. And not to mention the Pittsburgh defense has just been crumbling. And Tua has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki to throw to. I wouldn't worry too much. If some fool drops Tua, I would say pick him up and pick him up right now after this podcast is over. And for defensive streamers, let's talk about the New York Jets. The Jets' defense is pretty underrated, and they're going up against the Denver Broncos, who for some reason are struggling. Broncos country, let's ride. Am I right? And our final streamer here on defense, the New England Patriots. The defense has sprung to life and is becoming quietly one of the better units in the NFL. And on top of that, they're going up against the slow as molasses Chicago offense. So if the Pats are there, why don't you pick them up? What's the worst that could happen? So that about does it for our Fumblerooski Fantasy Fix. And if you like our fan content or our service for the fans content, you do not want to miss what's next. We're going to break down the Fumblerooski fan box after this. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. And it's caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast, powered by Power 88, Dean Radio, and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm CJ Medeiros, alongside my good friend and co-host Justin Tucker. And you know what time it is, Justin? It's time for the Fumblerooski fan box.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. It's a wonderful time. So if you don't know how it works, let me explain. We post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more, and we'll discuss it and even give you a shout out on the show. So make sure to respond to next week's Fanbox question to be featured. So our question of the week: who has been the most underrated running back this season for fantasy football? And as far as fantasy, there's something I would like to tell you. Tucker and I have something we'd like to get off our chest. We are in a fantasy league together, and our dear co-host Adam Wright is 0-6.
0-6.
And and Justin, you want to know? Do you know who he just lost to?
Oh, I don't know. Who did he just lose to?
Adam lost to our fellow co-host Justin Tucker.
Yes.
Thanks, Chargers defense. The joke can continue yet another week.
0-6. My Chargers defense only had 5 points, but Cortland Sutton only gave him like 3.9. Damn, that sucks.
And Adam, if you're listening to this, and don't worry, we're just funning with you, man. I mean, I'm not doing too well either. Tucker, wait, what's your record?
3-3 right now.
Yeah, so am I. But at least we're not 0-6.
Yeah, I mean, he can kiss that money goodbye.
Probably, yeah. And on that happy note, away we go. So once again, it's about who's the most underrated running back this season through fantasy football. And Ian Mullern says, quote, Gainwell for the Eagles. I mean, yeah, he's a decent flex option. He pops off here and there. But yeah, he's been a little underrated, I would say.
Yeah.
Next up, Cola DJ. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah. He's kind of streaky, but when he's on, he can give you like 21 points. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Next up, Grayson Mortimer, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has actually been arguably the best player on that Raiders offense.
Yeah, I don't think he's underrated at all. I think he's rated just fine. Who's talking negatively about Josh Jacobs?
I don't know, probably Devontae Adams, he who pushes cameramen. But you're not going to talk about that. Connor Fallon says David Montgomery. As someone who has David Montgomery on their fantasy team, I can say that's a lie.
Yeah, he's not doing so good right now for you.
And it's because his O-line. I do not like that Chicago O-line. But Connor, I'm just going to have to respectfully disagree with you, buddy. Wait, what'd you say, Justin?
They used to be one of the best. Now they just suck.
Yeah, that's the Chicago difference. Next, Derek Hool says Raheem Mostert's usage and production at his age is unreal. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, especially since Miami doesn't really have the bell cow back. Raheem Mostert, when he pops off, oh boy, that can be scary.
Yeah,
Nick Norman. Yep. Nick Norman. Lenny Fournette. Low of 9 and high of 35, having a damn good fantasy season. Yeah.
Playoff Lenny.
Playoff Lenny indeed. P. Tanzor 6525 says Josh Jacobs. Yeah, we have already spoken about Josh Jacobs, but I think we can both attest he's having a monster season and it's translating in fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
Cash Withers.
Record.
Oh, yeah. Cash Withers responded twice. Miles Sanders and James Robinson. I mean, yeah, James Robinson is doing pretty well. And unfortunately for Adam, he drafted Travis Etienne. Oh, well. And Miles Sanders, yeah, he's kind of underrated.
Yeah, I don't hear many people talk about him, but I have him on fantasy, and he's doing pretty well for me.
Next, Will Mantle says Breece Hall. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Eli Turner says Miles Sanders, maybe. My good friend, there's no maybe about it. He's been pretty good.
Why put him there if you don't know? Why say maybe?
Oh, well, we've all been. Here's one. Brian Mucker, who I believe is a former co-host of the show, said Breece Hall. Can you tell he's a Jets fan? Can you tell?
It's like a Jets fan.
Oh, well, we love him just the same, even though he's out tonight. Zachary Stilson said Jamal Williams, a.k.a. Swag Daddy. Thank you, Zachary, because last week he said something, or 2 weeks ago he said something about Swag Daddy. I didn't know who that was. I just assumed he was talking about Nathan Peterman, but apparently it's Jamal Williams, and I say I got to agree.
Yeah, he's been a big help.
Yeah, well, DeAndre Swift has been out. He's shouldered the load. Next, Stephen Parker says Jeff Wilson. Well, he didn't quite have a good game last week, but, I mean, overall, I would argue yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue it too much, even though he didn't play well.
And speaking of Jeff Wilson, Damon Bergfeld also says Jeff Wilson.
Oh, we got some Jeff Wilson fans.
Oh, yeah. And finally, our dear friend of the show, Robert Shelley, says Deion Jackson, 28 points in his only week. Yeah, and which is funny because he's RB4 in Indy. That's funny to me. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that about does it for the Fumblerooski fan box. We have heard the voice of the people. So Justin, before we hit the wrap up, do you have anything you'd like to say?
All I need to say is the Ravens better get it together. We need to get it together. We have no business being 3-3. We should be 6-0 or 5-1 at the least. We should not be 3-3. And that's not me being biased. That's us being objective about our record.
Spoken like a true gentleman. Well, on that happy note, we're going to wrap it up. That'll do it for us tonight. Thanks for listening to us. We have new episodes out on Tuesdays and Fridays, so definitely be sure to listen and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.